Climate Wisdom from COP30 Belém.
Welcome to our Climate Wisdom Studio live from COP30 in Belém, Brazil. We bring together experts from science, politics and spirituality to explore solutions for the unfolding climate disaster. Myself, I'm Golo Pilz, and I will be today's moderator on global solidarity and climate justice. The conference is coming to its end, and hardly a day is left. President Lula has met with all major countries throughout Wednesday. The EU, India, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and China are among those walking through the doors. Overnight, the presidency team will collate all the inputs, narrow options, and craft a new proposal that's set to come out this morning. From there, a mutirao will be held, and mutirao is an indigenous concept coming together and jointly find a solution for a problem, where ministers and COP President Dolago trying to find a deal. While 80 plus countries have come out in support of a phase out of fossil fuel, some notable countries are staying very quiet. Brazil's environmental minister, Marina Silva, has been the quiet star of this climate conference, ramping up pressure for roadmaps to tackle fossil fuels and save the global forests. Before the COP, there have been more than 120 outstanding agenda items. Some countries want assurance on catch, some on emissions, some others on trade. All this has to be wrapped up now. We will keep you posted on further news. I'm glad to have two special guests with us who will shed some more light on what's going on at the climate conference. We have with us Lourenço Bustani. Welcome, Lourenço. You are a Brazilian entrepreneur and the co-founder of Mandalah, a global innovation and purpose consultancy. You coined the term of conscious innovation and work with corporations to integrate socio-environmental standards and impact innovation in their business activity. Sounds a bit complicated, but I'm sure you will explain all that. You promote a shift away from mere profit to creating a positive legacy. And we have with us also Sister Jayanti. You are the additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris, a globally known spiritual leader. The Brahma Kumaris operates more than 8,500 meditation centers worldwide and is accredited to the United Nations since 2009. Sister Jayanti has been since then almost to all climate conferences, and you're also the head of the Brahma Kumaris delegation at this COP. Welcome, Sister Jayanti.
Thank you.
This brings me to my first question. Lourenço, can you share a bit about Mandalah? Remember, Mandalah comes from India. It's a drawing on the ground. It connects things. And what brought you also to the climate conference?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure and an honor to have this dialogue with the two of you. So I'll take the first question. Mandalah is a 19-year-old company that was born with the intention of qualifying the way business is done in order to ensure that the market's obsession with profit can be reconciled with what we've always believed to be just as important, which is a pursuit for purpose, and understanding how purpose and profit can actually have a symbiotic relationship. So to the extent that companies are becoming wealthier and shareholders are becoming wealthier, people's lives are improving as well, and the planet is being taken care of. We always thought that enriching shareholders at the expense of people and planet was an equation that just would never withstand the test of time. And we saw all the different overlapping crises that had been generated because of that very fragmented, linear, obtuse, and short-sighted way of understanding value generation in the world of business. So now we're trying to pick up the broken pieces and show that there's actually a way to create a virtuous cycle of prosperity where everyone wins.
Are companies open to this new concept and this idea?
It's hard to generalize. I think depends who you ask. But given the gravity of the situation that we find ourselves in today, it's becoming more and more of an understood truth that the models that have brought us up until here are no longer fit for present nor fit for future. So I think we're on an adoption curve of a more conscientious way of doing business.
And what brought you to the climate conference?
First of all, to be part of an important meeting that is addressing the most existential issues of our time, but also because we are a donor of the Planetary Science Pavilion in the Blue Zone, and we have really believed that one of the missing links in the negotiations is a planetary science context. A lot of what is being discussed is disconnected from tipping points, disconnected from a more systemic understanding of the Earth systems that keep life thriving on our planet. And also, planetary science helps us understand how much time we have in order to shift courses and salvage hopes to stay within 1.5 degrees. And so to the extent that we can support science, we feel that's the best contribution we can make to negotiations. We're also curating a house of a coalition of 7 of Brazil's largest companies. Over the course of 7 days, 100 speakers have spoken in this house through panels, keynotes, and workshops, where each day was dedicated to one of the pillars of the action agenda. So we had food systems, infrastructure, finance, energy transition, just transition, circular economy, and bioeconomy. And so it's been a very content-driven agenda that we helped put together.
So you have been quite busy.
Been very busy, indeed.
Congratulations for the Science Pavilion. I was there and I really liked the layout. And it was one of the few stands. I walked actually inside and I saw some very latest graphs and concepts, what's going on. And I took the flyer with the QR code.
Yep.
And I thought I should download that report because that might give some latest update.
Yeah,
so
that's the planetary health check that you're referring to.
Yep. Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks very much. Sister Jayanti, today's topic is ethics at the heart of COP30. And today was your last day, I assume. And interestingly, also a fire broke out at 4 o'clock in the climate conference behind the Indian Pavilion. And you have been part of many panels and also many peoples at the climate conference. And you have been also since 15, 16 years going to almost each and every climate conference. So you could feel the pulse of the conference and also the delegates. And we had this ethical stocktake also, and quite some talk on ethics and values also in the faith-based community. Have ethics arrived at the COP? Are they there, and what has to be done?
I wish. But I don't think that although the idea was introduced, I don't think it was actually taken up seriously on any level whatsoever, except by the faith-based organizations. And we were very happy to see that ethics was being introduced, but then it didn't go much further. But I think that one of the reasons that a negotiator mentioned today was very interesting. He said that, well, I can have ethics and believe in certain values, but then when I'm at the negotiating table, I just have to think about what my government wants me to do and say and protect. And so at that moment, I have to adjust my own understanding of what I need to do and move in the direction that the government takes me. So he was, in a sense, saying that, well, ethics in theory are fine, but they're not actually applicable in practice. This was what he meant. And he was challenged. This is a professor who teaches in the Netherlands, a young man, and he was challenged by quite a senior person, a professor from China. And this person was then saying, But if you don't have ethics, what are the principles that you're going to live by? And so he was counterbalancing what this guy was saying. So I was very pleased to hear that. But it didn't have much airing within the general conference, I don't think. But if you think about ethics, ethics is what is applied in terms of society and corporations and large communities. But the starting point of ethics are the values of the soul. And so when you think about the soul, the inner being, the spiritual identity, then you're connected with those values. And if I think about just in the 50 years that I've been aware, I'm much older, but the 50 years I've been involved with spirituality and spiritual teachings, I've seen such a dramatic change in the code of conduct that individuals had at that time to what it is today. And so we've forgotten about spirituality and our own inner core being. And so we've got separated from our own values. So there isn't that virtue in life anymore. And of course, then it reaches the point where people say, well, ethics are just theory.
But we should note also the ethical stocktake initiative, which has been launched by the Brazilian government. And I think Muti Rao also goes a little bit in that idea, where they are trying at least to appeal to the conscience of the delegates and the negotiators. And they're saying basically, come on, if we don't act now, there won't maybe time to be left over. So they're appealing to some moral compass in a way.
I was asked this question, but how do you connect all this? And I said that whether it's a negotiator or an ordinary person, while you're just focused on that limited perspective of my country or even my city, any of those limited ideas, you're never going to be able to take a step beyond those limits. That if you have that vision of the world as one planet, one earth, one home, one family, then you begin to see that, well, what I want for me and my family and my city is so limited. And how long is that going to manage unless we take care of the bigger picture? And the big picture is that we're being told by science, and we're feeling it and seeing it in terms of all the global incidents that are happening with climate, that we have to take action today. And we have to think about it in that bigger picture. We can't just think about it in a limited, narrow way.
So we're all universal citizens of this planet.
The professor from IPCC, he was very interesting. He said that there are scientific universal values.
Okay, so let's just combine the scientific with the spiritual one. It's quite interesting because that touches the second question which I have for you, Lourenço. The world is definitely right now not united how to tackle climate change. And also the loss of biodiversity is going actually hand in hand. It seems also this COP format was good enough to produce the Paris Climate Agreement, creating agreements, but it struggles with actually the implementation. It seems there is no right instruments at this climate conference, and no enforcement mechanism also is available to really bring that what had been agreed into action. What has to change at the climate conference? The format, what has to change? And can the idea of conscious innovation, which you also propagated, help us to improve the COP format and bring us further somehow?
Well, at the root of the concept of conscious innovation is the idea that you can have social and environmental and economic development all at once. And I think that's also an underpinning of many of the discussions that are happening in the climate conference. But as Sister subtly referred to, we are hostage to an illusion of separation. We've been indoctrinated in a very linear and fragmented and Cartesian way, where, for example, we don't connect climate with nature. We don't connect the environment with economics, or social with economics and the environment. We have a deficit of systems literacy. We don't see the connection between things. We don't understand that our well-being, individual well-being, is a function of our collective well-being, and vice versa. So the very nature of our existence is undermined by the way we conduct our lives in this modern society. And the outcome is what we're living through today, which is a crisis at the individual level, where everyone is ill, full of different pathologies, at the social level. And you can see that by the level of antagonism between people and conflict that we're living through, and the number of wars and armed conflict that the world is currently a witness to. And also, in terms of our connection to that which keeps us alive, the natural systems that we depend on to live and to thrive. So until we're able to bridge these lost connections, there's really little that we can do for ourselves. So the shift that needs to occur is at a paradigmatic level, at a worldview level, and everything will trickle down from that. The ethical crisis derives from that same illusion of separation, right?
Correct.
How will we care for each other if we cannot see the interdependent and interconnected characteristic or condition that defines us? Until we can see that in that way, we'll be shooting in the dark.
So it's basically a question of individual transformation, of also the delegates coming here to the COP, of the negotiators, of the politicians, that they wake up, that they rise their conscious and awareness, and then collectively, based on a heightened awareness, we find a solution. So we have to train the politicians, well, somehow, or the negotiators.
I personally don't believe, at least from my limited experience, I don't believe that a shift in consciousness is something that can be trained.
Inspired?
Inspired, perhaps. There's an expression in Brazil that you either learn through love or through pain. And so we are increasingly more having to learn the hard way. With the extreme weather events that the whole world is subject to. So, and the individual awakening will always happen, will always be a mirror of the collective awakening as well, and vice versa. It's all the same thing at the end of the day, right? That understanding, in a way, helps me manage expectations as to what we can expect from a bureaucratic, to a certain extent, theatrical, multilateral, consensus-based governance structure as COP. And going back to your first question, what needs to change is perhaps an attempt to make decision-making a process based on majority voting and not consensus voting. Because at the moment we have small blocks of countries that are able to sabotage a process that impacts the well-being of the rest of the world. And we'll always have, those individual interests undermining what's best for the greatest number of people.
So we have started actually a meditation for the climate conference quite some long time ago. And many of our centers in the world, they meditate for the climate conference, for our team here, but also for the whole process, to raise on a heightened awareness, because we believe also vibrations which you send to that event can help the delegates, because they're all pretty much stressed out and burned out. Yeah. It's actually quite tough if you go to the COP. I always found it a bit sort of exhaustive. Gentlemen, you are a yogi practitioner and meditate since the last 50 years. And yoga means connection with the divine. It has a profound uplifting effect. And it is said regular meditation builds up resilience, inner strength, gives hope, and even it is said it can settle old karmical burdens on you, which is very interesting. And can you collaborate a bit on that, how meditation helps to come out of the darkness towards the light?
First and foremost, meditation means going on a journey inwards And even within the first few days of meditation, it's possible to feel that inner state of peace, which is naturally mine. They have a lovely expression in India that my original religion, Swadharma, is peace. And so when I take the time to go on that inner journey and see what's happening inside that sacred space, I find peace. And in that peace, gradually it's as if the treasures open up and you discover love and truth and joy. You discover purity. And so these are the natural intrinsic qualities of every human soul. And whether they've forgotten it or they remember it, but they're there somewhere, hidden away. But silence and meditation enables that to awaken. And so you come to a very different understanding of what you should be doing at this moment of time. So, for example, if I didn't have this awareness of the eternal soul, I would be very, very afraid of what the future holds. But having that conviction that goodness is inherent within every soul, but also that I, the soul, am eternal, that gives me the faith. I don't see it in an external way at the moment, but it gives me total conviction and faith that with the power of the goodness of the human spirit, things will turn around, and from the darkness we will move into the light, the day. I see many individuals who have made this shift, but I know that it's going to create a wave so that even a minority that's committed to these ideas will have an impact on the majority. And so I see that, yes, the inner journey of meditation is of benefit for me personally, but it also means that there's going to be benefit through that collectively. And of course, when one and one meditate together, it's not just two. We put the zero in the middle and it's 101. And so the zero is the divine, the being of light, the supreme.
I may just comment, we often talk about tipping points within the context of planetary collapse, right? Tipping points are a moment where, once transgressed, collapse is inevitable, it's irreversible, and it's unpredictable. But tipping points also works in a positive sense. And if we can get a critical mass of people that are well-intentioned, that are mobilizing in the spirit of a mutirão, science shows us that once we can reach 20 to 25% of the world's population coming from a place of benevolence and altruism, that can be enough of a tipping point to shift the entire reality of the world. So I connect with your hope.
Okay, so let's be part of that group which starts it.
I think we are.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Sister Jayanti. This brings me to my last question, Lourenço. In one of your talks, you mentioned love, and that love is the most profound, transformative power in the world. And it seems the climate conference needs more love. The delegates needs more love. All of us need more love. So how does it work to where we get this love, where we find this love, how to self-empower ourselves, and then also how to share this love with all others to make it a loving world and come out of that negative mindset we're right now.
That's a tall order for me to answer. If I knew the answer and the roadmap to love, perhaps I would have transcended already. But I believe love is the most renewable source of energy available, because, as Sister mentioned, it's our natural condition to love. It's our most pure condition, and it's free, and we can decide to access it at any moment. Even if we haven't until that point, we can always flip that switch. And so, how do we do it? I don't know how we do it, but I know how I do it, based on my own lived experience. And I think the answer to that question will always be very subjective in nature, because sometimes our ability to love is impeded by past suffering and past conditioning. And so sometimes in order for us to access that love, we have to access that pain and that suffering and overcome it, unleashing our ability to love. And so for me, it's in the small things. It's in the day-to-day actions. It's the act of loving is part of the human conditioning. It's something you can practice until it becomes second nature, because modern life is always testing our ability to be consistently loving. And so unfortunately, would have hoped that it, modern life would facilitate, but just the very nature of what it is to live in many of the different societies that are part of modern life, it's a challenge to be coherent and consistent with your ability to love. But my hope rises from my own ability to exercise and channel that love. And so if I'm not doing that, then I'm also kind of losing hope and losing the vitality and the motivation that keeps me going, allowing me to enjoy life.
Lovely. It is said that God's love can move mountains. And thanks very much for sharing this very personal question also. So this brings us slowly to the end of our studio, and this is probably one of our last Climate Wisdom studios for this climate conference. And time is moving forward, and I would like to ask Sister Jayanti for a short meditation. Maybe you can invoke some divine love and empower us all, and then let's share it jointly to the COP, so we will find some good results.
I'm sure it'll happen. Just carry on sitting comfortably with both feet on the ground and the back straight, so that the body is relaxed but also alert. I'll share my own thoughts as I meditate and invite you to follow these ideas in your own mind. I visualize a spark of light shining in the center of the forehead. And as I focus on this, it begins to feel very familiar, very comfortable. And I realize that this is actually who I am. I am a being of light. I go deeper and deeper inside to that sacred space where no one else can enter. And in this deep space within, a sacred space, I feel the presence of the divine. I connect with the being of light who is the supreme, the source of all positive attributes. And from the source emerges light, which is the light of love. And as this love reaches me, the love is able to cleanse me, things that are not needed, the negativity, the anger, plus. I am transformed. And I know that it is this transformation within that's going to lead to transformation out there. That love surrounds the world and brings light so that darkness is vanished and the day begins. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Sister Jayanti, for bringing the light, the love to our studio. And thanks, Lourenço, for coming, for joining us. Thanks, Sister Jayanti. And thanks also to our patrons and sponsors and all the helpers behind the camera around the world, which made this Climate Wisdom Studio possible. This is the last live transmission from Belém, from the climate conference, and please stay with us. We will inform you on the final outcome of the conference. You can look up our webpage. We will have also reports and summarize the conference and share also all the programs and projects we have carried out. Please visit our webpage at echo.brahmakumaris.org/live. You will find all the information, and thanks very much to you, to our audience. You stayed almost 2 weeks with us, and you've seen many activists, many scientists, many politicians here in our studio, and I hope the studio helped you to understand the urgency of climate change, the gravity of the crisis, but also highlighted solutions, highlighted spirituality, highlighted ethics, the power of transformation, and in this session, the power of love and light. Thanks very much. And for this year, I almost want to say goodbye from Belém, but a last snippet of information. The next climate conference has been finalized. It will be in Antalya in Turkey. We're already looking for accommodation there, and hopefully in 1 year's time, you can dial in again for another episode of Climate Wisdom Studio. Thanks very much and goodbye.